Probably 15 years from now, I believe in a world where there's no food waste.
Much of our economic consumption exists on a linear track, but innovative companies and entrepreneurs like David Coté of Loop Mission are embracing a new economic framework with an eye through sustainability and reintegration.
Was there a specific moment that you kind of went, oh yeah, I need to start this, what ended up being Loop Mission? Was there a specific moment that prompted that?
I was already an entrepreneur. I already had two businesses, one in restoration and one in kombucha. I founded Rise Kombucha, which became the biggest kombucha company in Canada. But I started from my bicycle, right? I had no money in my pockets, and I bought a bike on Craigslist in the cooler and a few mason jars, and I started selling it in the street, really. And it became a pretty big business with 120 employees. And I got an amazing phone call. I got a phone call from a guy that I didn't know, and he told me, "I think you need to visit our warehouse because I think you could help us." And I visited his warehouse, and the guy was throwing away, and is still throwing away today, 16 tons of fruits and vegetables every day, 365 days a year. There's no holidays for food waste. And I say 16 tons, but I'm being generous because it's actually sometimes 25 tons a day. So it's between 16 and 25 tons of produce every single day that they throw away. And I found out that this is the biggest warehouse and importer and distribution center of produce in northeastern Canada. And I didn't know any of this. The guy called me. I didn't know who he was. At first, I thought he was just a dude that wanted help to start his new business. Because he told me he was looking into juice or baby food, and he wasn't sure. And I even refused. The first time he called me, I refused to meet him because I was like, I don't have time, and I don't have time for this. Whatever. And then he called me again, and then I googled the name of his business. And I was like, oh, these seem pretty big. They've been there for 100 years. Because of speculation and overstock in the industry, it just happens that they throw a lot. They throw a lot of produce that are still good, but they just have too much in inventory, and there's not enough demand. And this is basically the victims of their speculation. And that's how it all started. So I sold a good chunk of my business, and Julie, that I just met, that we fell in love. We wanted to start a business together, and she came from a background of sustainability, and she's quite a geek in environmental science. So we joined forces, and she sold her house. I sold a part of my business, and we started Loop full time. And we started Loop, just her and I and our partner Courchaine Larose, which are the distribution center of produce. And we started from our apartment, just creating the brand and sending the overstock of produce to a co-packer. We slowly saw that there was a momentum in the demand, and then we opened our own factory, and that's and then it's the story. To me, circular economy, which is really at the core of what we're doing. We're kind of one of the best example of circular economy in the food industry in North America now. It's so basic, like it's the most obvious thing ever. If you took anybody that lived there 200 years ago and you show them how we manage our resources, the first thing they can think is like, these people are stupid. It doesn't make sense. Like, metaphorically, as a society, every week we go to the grocery store, right? And the way we actually act as a society today is that we go to the grocery store, we buy all of our food for the week. You go out, before going to your car and putting it in your car, you throw away half of the food that you got in your basket. This is exactly what we do as a society right now. 50% of all the food in Canada will be wasted before being consumed.
Things are made, used, then discarded unceremoniously to a trash heap far, far away. But that pattern is incredibly destructive to our environment and our public health, using finite resources to create finite products that eventually end up in landfills or creating excess carbon from incinerators. When applied to organic products like food, the remains generate greenhouse gases like methane, which is 86 times more harmful than carbon dioxide. In 2020 alone, 80 billion pounds of food is thrown out in the US, which not only wastes the food, but also the water, fertilizer, packaging, and labor used to make the food. To combat this destructive linear thinking, businesses are embracing circular economies. This type of business model aims to design out all food waste, emphasizing total systems health by ensuring natural capital is cycled as efficiently as possible in order to reduce dependency on the planet's increasingly limited resources. The philosophy, which is gaining popularity with companies hoping to make a positive impact while decreasing losses, can be scaled at any level, globally or locally. No matter how much an organization or individual consumes, there are often avenues to re-employ those materials either for yourself or your business. However, when done on a massive scale, the results could be revolutionary. According to the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, an embrace of circular economies could generate a cost savings of 600 billion euros a year, boost Europe's resource productivity by 3%, and result in 1.8 trillion euros more in additional economic benefits. A significant reason linear thinking and waste have been able to thrive is how easy it is to simply reach for the next thing instead of reclaiming and reforming the previous thing. But businesses that are leaning into the principles of circular economies are seeing a path to a brighter future, both financially and environmentally.
The good thing with Loop is that it's the perfect base for me because there's no limitation of products, right? We're not stuck. We're not a juice company. You know, we started as a juice company. It was called Loop Juices, circular economy juice, using misfits produce and transforming to cold press juice, and then using our fiber and pulp to make dog treats and pizza crust. And this was the model. And then we realized after starting that we got so many phone calls, so many other companies in the industry, either a food manufacturer, either another produce distributor, a banner like Sobeys and Loblaws, a farmer, all of those guys started calling us and saying, I'm also throwing away so much food. So we realized that there was not only produce, but all kinds of other things. And that's when we launched a line of beer under the same branding, made with the day-old bread from bakeries. Because bakeries have to guarantee their sales to grocery stores. And when there's 3 days left of shelf life on the bread in the grocery, they have to take it back and replace it with a fresh bread, even if that bread is still very good. So we actually help those bakeries. We buy that bread, and then we brew beer out of it. You know, so we replace the grain in the normal beer with actual bread, like sliced bread, literally. So our team is just opening those bags and putting the bread in the beer tank, and we ferment it into beer, in which we add juice. And then we launched a line of soap made with recycled oil from a fast food chain. So we take their oil and we make soap with juice of fruits in it also. And then we launched a line of gin, one gin, a spirit in all the liquor store in Canada that is made with potato cuttings from a potato chip company from Crispy Kernel. So we take their potato cuttings. When they make potato chips, they need to have all the nice round chips. So all the sides of the potatoes they throw away. So we buy it from them, you know, and we make a gin out of it, and we add ginger and lime in it. So the idea is, you know, we're not a nonprofit that are depending on donations or grants. We're a for-profit company that are giving back money to agro-food business that used to spend money to get rid of that food. So everybody wins there, right? We're paying way cheaper for our raw ingredient. We give money to people that used to spend money for getting rid of it. So they actually have a better margin in the end. So they have more money to do marketing innovation or be more competitive with their competitors. And the consumers doesn't have to pay a higher price because we paid less for it, right? So, and you know, most of consumers in the last 15 years, we've learned as a consumer that if you want to be a responsible consumer and buy something that is either organic, fair trade, local, or any of those, you know, granola or craft or anything that is better for the planet, you need to pay more. That's what we've learned as a consumer. You need to actually pay more and take a hit yourself to actually be a better citizen, you know, in quote. But we're actually breaking this and disrupting this whole idea by saying you can actually pay the same price than the cold pressed juice out there, even a cheaper price, and have a benefit for the environment by reducing greenhouse gas emission, by helping us, Loop, reducing food waste. So it's kind of everybody wins: the consumer, the supplier, and ourselves.
A major tool in combating food waste at a local level is composting. Meredith Danberg Ficcarelli has devoted her career to spreading the gospel of composting, especially in and around New York City. She is the director of Common Ground Compost, a board member on the U.S. Composting Council, the Manhattan Solid Waste Advisory Board, and is a founder of several waste-fighting initiatives throughout the 2010s. The 2019 Recycling Leadership Award winner, courtesy of the New York State Association of Reduction, Reuse, and Recycling, recently co-founded the New York City Microhauling and Processing Trade Association, which relies on volunteers to maintain a network of composting stations throughout the city, even as the COVID pandemic creates new challenges to community wellness.
So Common Ground Compost is a social enterprise. We're based in New York City, and we are a zero waste services company. So we help businesses mostly, but also residents in New York City, compost and recycle through a suite of services that include zero waste consulting, which is essentially anything under the umbrella of building waste diversion programs, but it's training, it's education, it's infrastructure, it's standard operating procedures, waste audits, and dealing with a lot of data and information, and kind of turning that data into actionable, motivational, steps that can help people to change behavior. And we do a lot of advocacy. So we participate in a lot of efforts that are happening in the city and beyond to expand access to organics recycling, improve sort of the policies that exist to allow for growth in this new market. And generally, right now we're unfortunately fighting the city to make sure that the existing compost sites that we have aren't going to get shut down.
So New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio, he put forth a plan in 2015 to eliminate waste to landfills by 2030. With the type of vision and development since, and especially considering the work that you're doing within promoting micro-hauling specifically, and really focusing on the scaled down version in order to really reach these large, ambitious goals that really engage so much of the community. With that sort of vision, do you think that we can eliminate food waste by 2030?
Is it possible? It's a crazy question, because anything is possible. But if we prioritize the needs of corporations and billionaires, we're never going to get there. As long as small businesses like mine and small food businesses are struggling to pay the wages of their staff, while you get the idea. Our priorities are very off right now, and I mean in terms of maybe United States society, the way that our federal government is operating does not support the needs that we have on the ground to be able to achieve the goals that we have. At least that we in that case is like zero waste people, people that are trying to reduce waste to landfills and incinerators in cities.
So who else, as part of that chain, really needs to get involved? If the federal government's not involved, if the city is cutting programs, especially since COVID happened, who are going to be the key stakeholders to be able to drive forward innovation in this field?
I think businesses really need to play a bigger role. We only have waste because we buy things that are packaged in materials that are chosen by companies who sell us the things. So I think, this idea of extended producer responsibility is going to have to come in here, where it does become the cost to pollute is on the shoulders of the polluter, rather than the responsibility to avoid litter being on the shoulders of the consumer. There really needs to be a redefinition of what, first of all, of what waste is, right? Because really these are materials that could be valued instead of being waste. But also whose responsibility it is to manage that problem. Municipalities having to deal with the cost of increased collection of waste products because there's more packaging. They have to pick up the stuff. It has to go somewhere. So understandably, that ends up on the shoulders of those municipalities. But where's that waste coming from in the first place? And I'm not giving you an answer. I don't have the answers, but these are the problems that we face.
What about a banana? If a company is making a banana and they're sending it out to New York City and somebody just throws the peel on the street, is it their responsibility for that because that wasn't wrapped up in plastic or something like that? Are they going to be involved in the food waste chain in some kind of way, you think?
That's a good-
How could CSR be part of this?
I love bananas when they're not mushy. So, don't get me wrong here, but I think us expecting that like we can get strawberries in January is also part of the problem here. We do need to localize our food systems a bit more, both to reduce the global impact of food production and so that we can, be more secure in having our own food systems. I'm not suggesting that we shouldn't also have global systems. I do believe that there's space for every scale. And, I know you asked a question about waste and I answered it with a comment about food, but the point there is that these systems are cyclical and food waste should feed food that then creates food waste that then feeds food again. And I actually hate using the term food waste. It's food scraps, right? We're not talking about cases and cases of apples that were harvested and then, languished in storage and never made it to a plate and then had to be composted. We're talking about the core or the stem even and the seeds of the apple. Those items, who bears the cost? I think that the question here is one that's much more about our agricultural systems, what the inputs to those systems are, which at an industrial scale right now, those are synthetic and mined fertilizers, and they really should be naturally produced compost products. So there needs to be a reimagining and a reengineering of all of the inputs and outputs of all of our systems. And so, right now, no, a company doesn't own the peel. I don't think that I ever want to see a future where companies own all of our organic matter, because that's not the solution either. But we do need, sort of a reset and a re-education to recognize that the nutrients that are embedded in that banana peel need to be brought back to the soil so that more plants can grow and can pull those nutrients out, so they can benefit us and everyone else who needs nutrients, right? Everything that's alive. Yeah.
I think from probably 15 years from now, I believe in a world where there's no food waste. I told you. Well, there's a mix of technology and for shelf life issues and the dehydrating stuff that we can't right now, and also a realization from big corporation that their waste actually has value, and the green movement where big corporation realize that they need to do something to at least tell a story. All of that together, even if a part of it is just a trend, well, that trend actually is pushing companies to actually take better action. So all of this together makes it that I believe that in 15 years from now, there's going to be about 10% of the food waste that we have today.